Hi everyone, welcome to our channel, Rebecca, Stu, and the crew. I'm Rebecca. Today we have some fun budget-friendly DIYs. Here we're going to be making these 3 different characters for a large Christmas display. So let's get crafty. We're going to make the snowman first. We're going to take one of these large signs from Dollar Tree. I had these left over from fall, but they also sell them around Christmas time. They have them in blue and green. We're just going to cover them up so you won't see what's underneath. So what we're going to do is take a bead of glue and put that along the bottom edge, and then use one of the microfiber towels from Automotive at Dollar Tree and just center it right on the sign here. So once we have that bottom edge glued down, we take some more hot glue and glue up the side of the sign. Then we'll smooth the microfiber towel back out to make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I just flip the whole thing over and I put a bead of glue down the left side and glued it down in the same manner. So once it's all glued down, we're just going to flip the whole thing over and completely wrap this in the microfiber towel. So you could either add your glue to the board or to the towel. Either way, it doesn't matter, just as long as you're gluing it down to the board and completely covering the back. Once you have that glued down, if you have any loose spots that you need to fix with the hot glue, go ahead and add some extra glue. Now we'll take one of these Dollar Tree snowman head signs that they have out, and we're going to add some hot glue to the top here and just glue the head on, completely covering up all the black portion of the sign. And then Dollar Tree sells these little kits of buttons. I found 3 large black buttons that I'm going to use to glue down the center of the snowman. Just space them out evenly. You don't have to measure, just kind of eyeball it. So then we needed to add a stand. So Dollar Tree sells these 2-inch blocks. So I put 2 on the back to help it to stand up. And then we're going to glue on a snowflake ornament to the bottom just to help spruce him up a little bit. Look like he's ready for Christmas. I also took some small ornaments for the mini trees that look like snowflakes, and I glued that to his bow tie and added a little bit of a snowflake piece to the top of his hat. Also a little bit of snowy greenery. And then I have these little gold antlers. I actually found these at Walmart. And what we're going to do is poke a little hole in the sides where we want the arms to go in. And then we just slid those in and added a little bit of hot glue to hold them in place. I apologize. I thought I was recording and I actually missed that part. So now we'll make the Santa. So it's just as easy. We're going to take one of these miniature tree skirts here. As you can see, I have it folded in half. So if you open it up, basically what you're going to do is cut off 1/4 of the tree skirt, and then you're going to take that quarter, you're going to fold it in half and create these 2 pieces here, which are going to become the sleeves for his outfit, and the larger piece will be his jacket. So before we put the jacket on, we're going to take some of this red felt and we're going to mark where his feet will be at. So that will be big enough for the 2-inch blocks. And then I'm just drawing a line so I know where to add the hot glue. So then I just add hot glue to another one of these large Dollar Tree signs. And we start adding the felt in the same manner we did the microfiber towel, except for this one, the shoes will go in the front so that we can see his boots. So we'll add some hot glue to the top there. And then turn the board over and we're going to attach hot glue to the felt and keep wrapping the board. It's okay that there's a space along the back. It's just going to look like a space between his legs. We're actually going to add ribbon here in a few minutes. Okay, so now we're going to add a small piece of ribbon to the front, and this will create the space between his legs just so it doesn't look like a solid shape there. We're just going to add some hot glue and just a piece of plain old black ribbon from Dollar Tree. You can put it as high or as low as you like. I know where my jacket's going to end up, which is why I only cut it this long. Then I'm going to take some pieces of that microfiber towel. I have a few extras, and I'm going to just create about a 1-inch strip, and I'm going to glue this to the bottom of the pant legs to create the fluff that Santa usually has around the arms and legs of his outfit. And just be mindful you don't cover up that black piece of ribbon that you just added, but you do want to get it as close as possible. Okay, so we've got that done. We've got the ribbon on the front and the back. And now we're going to take that tree skirt. We're going to lay the board right on top of it. You just fold one piece over and then fold the other piece over and then pull it down into place so you have the jacket where you would like it to be before you add any glue. So that's where my jacket will end up. And then I'm just going to add some hot glue to the one side and then glue the bottom portion of the shirt down. And then I'll glue the next side down. And then I flip it over and I glue the top portion down. And we ended up cutting another piece of buffalo plaid off of another like stocking I had left over to cover up that space in the back, but it's really not necessary. You could just paint it black, which is what I did with the back of the Santa head and things. Then I just flipped over the top portion of the jacket here and glued that down so we had a nice straight line. Now we're going to make the sleeves for his outfit. So we're just going to put a bead of hot glue down the triangle edge and then just fold it over and we have a Santa sleeve. Just don't glue down where the hands will go because we're going to add some hands. So once we figure, so I actually put the head on just in place so I can see where my sleeves are going to go, and then I hot glue those into place, but I haven't glued the head down yet. So then I had this glitter hair bow or like hair clip from Dollar Tree, and we're going to create a belt with some black Dollar Tree ribbon, and we just pulled that hair clip off of the snap clip and we are going to glue that on as a buckle. Just glue the front portion on first and then continue gluing the belt on all the way around. Just line up the ribbon and cut off any excess that you have. And now that we have the ribbon on for the belt, we'll just glue on the buckle. And now we're going to take some more of that microfiber cloth and create a kind of like a collar to his jacket. And we'll wrap that around the back. And for the back of the Santa head, we just painted it black so it all blended in together once it was glued on. So continue wrapping that microfiber cloth all the way around. And you'll just need enough that you can see it underneath of the Santa, but it doesn't have to match up completely just because you're going to glue the head on and you won't be able to see where you attach the two pieces together. So now we're going to add the hot glue and attach the head. And like I said, I just took black paint later and just painted the back of the Santa's head. And then it just blends all into the back of the sign. Now we're going to take those 2-inch blocks and create the Santa boots. So I have this gold scrapbook ribbon from Dollar Tree. And we're going to wrap that around the bottom edge of the block to make the soles of the shoes. It's really nice because it's just a peel and stick scrapbook ribbon. If you don't have any scrapbook ribbon that you can use, you can just use regular ribbon. I'm just using the gold because I had it on hand. And if you use the regular ribbon, just go ahead and hot glue it. And of course, you don't have to do the back because that's going to be attached to the sign. So don't waste extra ribbon if you don't have to. So then we'll do the second boot exactly the same. And I thought it was easier to put the gold ribbon on the bottom before I painted the boots, just so I didn't have to wait for it to dry. And then I went ahead and painted the boots black. And again, you don't have to do the back portion because that's going to be glued to the sign. You're not going to see it anyways. You just want to do a nice thin layer of black paint all the way around, except for the back, and then you'll do the top. You don't have to do the bottom, but I did do the bottom of the boot here, but you really don't have to. You're not going to see it. And again, we'll paint the other boot exactly the same. So now we're going to be working on making some mittens for the outfit. So I'm just going to draw like an oval shape with the hot glue gun on the felt, and then fold the felt in half and glue it together. And you can see where you glued, you can see the line. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but you can actually see the line where you glued at. So then you just want to cut around the outside of the portion that you glued. And then you want to turn the mitten inside out so you have a really nice edge. And then once you have it all turned inside out, you just have this cute little mitten left behind. And then you can just take some little strips of extra felt that you cut off when you cut around the mitten, and you can just stuff that down inside to help make it a little bit puffy. And you do want that long portion that will go up the arm, because that's actually what's going to be glued inside of the sleeve. So it almost looks like a deflated balloon when you're done. So now we're going to glue the boots onto the front of our Santa. And I just was mindful to leave a space between the legs there, kind of about the width of the ribbon that we glued on for the pant legs. And just make sure you have your boots lined up right on that bottom edge of the sign to help it to stand. Okay, so then we're going to take the mittens and we're just going to stuff them up inside the sleeves, and then we'll add the hot glue. So we add some hot glue to the back and hold that down, then add some more to the top. And we'll do the same for both mittens. And our Santa is all finished. And he's part of our sign now. So then we'll make the Grinch. So for the Grinch, I wanted his outfit to be red. So we're going to take a red t-shirt from Dollar Tree. We're just going to cut up the side of the shirt. We're going to cut up past the sleeves. And we're just basically cutting off the front portion of this shirt, because we're going to use that as his outfit, because the Grinch wears a solid red Santa outfit that he made himself. So then we're just going to take this small Dollar Tree tree skirt, and we're going to make basically the outfit the same way, except we're going to be using a t-shirt instead. So I just trace around the tree skirt with one of those rotary cutters from Dollar Tree. And then we'll peel off that extra scrap material. A couple of places didn't go all the way through, so I had to cut it with the scissors, but we just created this large circle. So then we're going to do the same thing we did with the last one. We're going to fold it into 4 or in half, and then we're actually going to cut it that 1/4 piece off. So I just laid this underneath and I just cut right down the middle. And then we'll flip it over and cut that 1/4 off. And those will be our sleeves, and the rest of it will be the jacket, just like we just did with the Santa. So then our pie-shaped piece here, the triangle piece, we're going to find the center, and then we'll cut that in half for the sleeves. So if you just crease the t-shirt material, it's nice because you can see the crease, and it makes it easy to follow to cut. So there's our sleeves, and that will be our jacket. So we're going to take longer strips of the microfiber cloth, and I just use the width of a ruler so about 1 inch wide. And I cut quite a few strips of this. So this will be to go around like the cuffs of his pants. We need 2 to go around the cuffs of his arms. And then we need a few longer pieces, which is going to go around the whole trim of the jacket. And then I think we'll also need a little bit extra for the collar, but we'll see here in a few seconds. It's been a process making this. I've made it over several days, so sometimes I kind of forget by the time I edit exactly what I did here. So we'll see it together. So as you can see, I just cut them about 5 or 6 inches long, and they're about 1 inch wide. So then we'll create the sleeves first. We're just going to glue the triangle in half like we did the last time. And then we'll do the same for the second sleeve. And then I actually folded these ones inside out just because it was made out of the t-shirt material and it was a little bit rougher of an edge. And then we'll do the same thing to create his hands. We're going to just create this like oval shaped mitten with the hot glue. And then you can see where the line is, where the glue's at. You're just going to cut around that. And again, you can save the excess felt to stuff the mitten with. So these ones I made a little bit bigger just because they're his hands and we're going to add some fur. And I wanted to be able to see the hands behind the fur. So I made them just a tad bit bigger than the black mittens. We'll do the same process for the second mitten. I actually found it a little bit easier to cut through it with the scissors. So we've got our 2 mittens. They don't have to look exactly the same. You're not really going to notice if they're a little bit different. I just eyeballed it with the hot glue gun. So again, you just want to flip these inside out and make sure you push around the edge really well so you get it popped open, and then stuff it with the excess felt that you cut off previously. And again, you want that long portion at the top. Don't cut that off because we're going to use that to put it up inside of the sleeve. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the Santa and just glue the hands up inside of the sleeve. And once we have that done, we'll start adding those white strips of fluff around the edge of the arms. Now don't glue the very front portion of the hands all the way down with the white fluff. You want it to be able to pull it up just a tad on the edge so you can add the fur. And you don't have to add the fur. That was just my personal preference. I thought it made him look a little bit more like the Grinch with the furry yarn that I created. Okay, so both of our arms are done. And again, we're going to cut some more. This will go around the jacket. So we're going to want some nice long strips. And then we'll take some hot glue and start lining the jacket with the white fluff. Now you can do both sides of the jacket, but I didn't. What I did is I took this white microfiber towel and I glued it all the way around the one side of the jacket. And then once I put the jacket on, I took 2 smaller strips, which are like about 4 inches long. And where I could see the jacket from the back, then I just added about the 4 inches behind it once I was putting it on. And that way it looked like there was lining all the way around on both sides, but you didn't actually have to do the whole entire process because most of it, you won't see the back side of it. So it's really up to you if you want to do the microfiber towel all the way around on both sides, but it's really not necessary. And as you can see, this portion here where we have this V shape, that's going to be the collar. So we want a little bit larger of a strip there. This is about 2 inches wide. So for the collar portion, I believe I did add enough of the white fluff all the way around just because I wasn't sure if I was going to see it. So now we're going to do his boots. His boots will be red because that's what color the Grinch's shoes are. But I'm just drawing where I'm going to be placing the boots at to make sure I don't cover it up with like the fur and things that I'm going to attach. And since I was creating his head and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it yet, I actually left the opening of the sign down at the bottom and it's going to be covered with felt. The other ones, I just left the opening at the top. So again, we're going to take some red paint. We're just going to paint the 2-inch squares. And again, you don't have to paint the back because that's where you're going to attach it to your sign. And that way you don't have to wait for the paint to dry. Not that it takes all that long to dry anyways, but just in case. And then we're also going to want to add like the black ribbon to the bottom. And that's going to give it like the sole of the boot. So now before we glue the blocks on for the boots, we're going to just measure with a green piece of felt. And I didn't wrap this all the way around in the same manner. I did a little bit different just because I was adding the yarn. So I just trace along the side here how wide I need it to be. And then I'll cut that excess portion off. And just like the Santa, I want it to show like there's 2 legs. So I just take that extra piece of felt that's going to be the legs and I crease it down the middle. And I line it up on my little Dollar Tree board and I'm able to cut this in half to create the 2 legs. So I just cut off the very edge here just to make it a little bit shorter to create that black open space between the legs. And this way I won't have to use any ribbon. And then we'll just get this right on the edge and leave that black line in the middle. And once you have it figured out, the spacing there, then just go ahead and start gluing it on. And this is why we measured where the shoes will go. And flip it over. And for the back, I just used a solid piece here and just cut the excess off of the side. And I wanted to cover that pumpkin shape down at the bottom. The Christmas ones have like a snowflake and I think a Christmas tree. So I wanted to completely cover that. So I just went ahead all the way down past it with the felt and then just added the green felt here. Again, this will be the back, so it doesn't have to look perfect, but I do want it to look nice. So now to make the fur. So what you're going to do is take a large craft stick and tape a piece of this green Dollar Tree yarn. And you can measure about how far you need to go. It's about 3 inches wide, and you just want to wrap the yarn around the stick in a nice straight pattern for about 3 to 4 inches. Now, if you want to wrap the whole entire stick, you can, and then you can just cut them down into 4-inch strips, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. So once I was done, I just attached it with a piece of tape, cut off the excess, and then you'll cut a strip of yarn, add a long line of hot glue, and then just attach it all to that long strip of yarn. So once that's all attached, go right underneath that bead of glue and cut it off with your scissors. And now you have a 4-inch piece of fur. And you'll want to make a bunch of these. And again, if you want to just do the whole entire craft stick, you can actually glue a long piece of yarn all the way down and then just cut them into 4-inch strips. And then we're going to layer them in this manner on the Grinch's legs to create the fur. So I figure out where the jacket's going to go. And as you can see, I added that white trim to the back of the jacket where we can see it. But behind the legs, there's no white trim there. And now I know to start at the bottom because it was just easier and start layering the yarn. just go all the way up the leg. I thought this was a really cute addition. I think the Grinch was definitely my favorite out of all three. It was definitely the longest one to make, but it was so much fun. So we did both legs, and then again, we wanted to leave that little space for the mittens, and I just made smaller pieces of fur, and I just tucked that underneath of the white fluff to give him a little bit of fur peeking out by his hands. And you can trim it down a little bit if it's too long. You just want to make sure you can still see the hands behind the fur. Okay, so now our boots have completely dried. We have all the fur attached on the bottom portion and the hands for the Grinch. And now we're just going to take some hot glue and some black ribbon and create the soles of the boots. And for this one, we'll use the hot glue since we're going to use ribbon. Okay, so we have the boots finished with the ribbon, and we're just going to take the hot glue and we're going to glue that on the back of the 2-inch block that we created from Dollar Tree here into little boots, and we're going to attach this to the bottom of the front of the sign. And again, that's going to cover up that open space that shows the pumpkin, but I also painted on either side of the red blocks with a red stripe, if you could see that, just to help the boots to blend in, and mostly because I had to glue the boots a little bit closer together to cover up that open space. But you can leave a small space in between to create that division between the legs. So now our boots are on, and we're going to take some of that microfiber cloth that we cut earlier, and this will be to go at the bottom of the legs to create the fluff of the Santa outfit. You don't have to add this part at the bottom. It was more or less to be like the top of his boots, because he doesn't really wear boots. He wears kind of like an elf type shoe. If you look at the pictures from like the cartoon movie, and that's where the white fluff is just around the top portion of his like slippers that he wears. So that's why we're adding the white fluff there. And you'll want to leave that space between the two legs again, so that way you can see the division between the legs. And then we'll just flip it over and just glue the white fluff all the way across the back, just to make a nice straight solid line. I apologize, this portion is going a little bit slower. I keep trying to speed it up, and the function's not working for some reason. So that's why this part's going a little bit slower. Okay, so now we're just going to add the arms that we created earlier. We've already attached the jacket. We did it the same way we did the Santa, so I didn't show you me gluing it on just because it's a little bit redundant. And I hadn't made the head at this point yet, so I really just made sure that I had something large enough to use for the heads. I'm going to actually use a large heart wood shape, like one of those DIY hearts that Dollar Tree sells year round over in the crafting aisle. And that is what we're going to use to create the Grinch's head, mainly because if you kind of look at the shape of his head in the cartoons, it actually has the appearance of a heart just a little bit, with the really wide cheeks and a little bit more narrow chin. So I just glue all of the arms down so they'll stay in place. And he's completely finished except for adding the hat and finishing his head. And I did add a few red buttons to the front of his jacket just to tie it all in and give it a little bit more detail. And these again are just the buttons from the Dollar Tree. You get them in like these little plastic containers. One container has like all black and gray and brown buttons, and the other one has more colorful buttons. It's just kind of hit or miss what you get, but you usually do get a decent variety of buttons. And I was able to find what I needed for the Snowman and for the Grinch in those packages. So for the Grinch's head, I just typed in Grinch coloring page and printed that out on my computer. And then once I printed it out a few times and found the size that I needed that would fit on this wood heart shape, then I just cut it out with my scissors. You're actually not going to need the hat portion. You're just going to need the face. So what I did is I laid it on top of the heart shape, and then I traced around it with a pencil. And then I was able to see those lines, and then I traced them again and then just started to paint. As you can see where I drew the lines on the heart shape. So I just painted it with like a sage green underneath, and then I did all of the trim with black, and I filled that in, and then the eyes of course were yellow. I did end up painting the top portion of the hat, but you didn't need to do that portion because I bought a Santa hat from Dollar Tree, which I put on the top portion here. And so you really don't need to do the top portion of the hat. Just go ahead and continue the green all the way up. And as you can see, I have some more of the fur, and we're going to cover the parts of the heart shape that we didn't paint. And this will be a little bit of the hair that pops out from under the hat. I did a real small section right in the middle and on either side of his head to cover up the wood portion. And we'll have one more strip that we use for the neck. So for the hat, it's just a tad bit big. So what I did is I put the head inside the hat, and then I pull it all the way over to the left. And then all we're going to do is we're going to fold this portion of the hat in just by tucking it, and we'll actually glue it down, and that'll make the hat the right size for his head. So with it still tucked in, I just put a bead of hot glue all the way down the side. And then make sure it's folded in. And then just hold those two ends together. So that'll make it tight enough to fit around his head. And then you do want to add hot glue underneath on the front and the back to make sure that it is stuck to the head. It won't fall off. You can stuff the hat a little bit if you like. I folded mine over and glued it down, so I didn't find it necessary to add any stuffing. So here we are just gluing the hat down to the top portion of his head, and then we'll do the same on the back. Just make sure your hair doesn't get stuck up inside the hat. So once I had the back glued on, then I took another strip of the white material from the microfiber cloth. We're going to glue that down on the front portion. I added a little bit more fur on either side of the neck first before I added this additional collar piece. And this is just to help hide the bottom portion of the heart shape. So as you can see, I put a little bit of fur under his chin, and then we just wrap this microfiber cloth around it. So once you have the head in place and you figure out where you want your collar to be, you can glue the head and the collar down. So now that I figured out where it's going to be, I'm just going to add a bunch of hot glue to the top portion here and glue his head down. And then I'll finish with the collar, just gluing that all down. You do want to hold the head down till the glue dries, just because they don't lay perfectly flat, and you want to make sure that it's going to stay. So now we're just going to take some hot glue and finish gluing down the collar. So as you can see, we have the fur popping out from under the hat, around his chin, and then on either side to make it look like some fur is coming out from the back. And that covers up all the little portions of the sign and things that you didn't paint or that wouldn't blend in. So you could just add small tufts of the fur that you create all around to cover up those little pieces. This portion of the collar was a little bit too long, so instead of cutting it off, I wanted to have a nice smooth edge, so I just folded it under and glued it down. And you can see the little ball of the hat, how it's folded down. Now I just glued that portion of the hat down so it would stay. And these are all three of them all done. So I actually took a wood board and I glued them all to a wood board. Just one of those little like long wood planks that Dollar Tree sells with different sayings on them. I actually glued all three to it just to hold them up because my cats kept knocking them over, but they do stand on their own. And I added the flashing light necklaces to the Grinch and the Snowman and just put a few little gnomes around them just to kind of add to the picture here. So I know it's a long video, but there are 3 whole parts and 3 characters to create, which take a little bit of time. But I just love how they turned out. It's a really fun, large display to add to our Christmas decor. I just love it so much. The Grinch is definitely my favorite one of the bunch. I would have been happy with him just all by himself. I love the fur. I love his little hands, his face. The whole thing just cracks me up. The kids just loved it too. So I hope you guys enjoyed learning how to make this large Christmas DIY with me. I had a lot of fun showing you guys how to make it and coming up with something a little bit different than we're used to seeing in the DIYs here with using Dollar Tree items. I appreciate you guys watching so much. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And here are some other videos from our channel that you might also enjoy. We post the DIY crafting videos every single Thursday. Have a great day, everyone.